got a video called Why Frieren and Apothecary Diaries Took Over Anime. Did it really? Did it really? I think Frieren did, right? The wide appeal of Frieren making casual fans of people that don't even watch anime on like a seasonal basis, just checking out whatever's the most popular, people start talking about it. Yeah, that definitely did. Apothecary Diaries, I think, is a bit of a reach. I think Apothecary Diaries is a phenomenal anime, but I don't think it really had that same mainstream appeal. Apothecary Diaries is a little bit too niche in this whole different way of storytelling, and it's just like, like a Chinese palace setting, right? So I don't know about Apothecary Diaries, but Glaze, let's go.
As anime production ramped up over the past decade, the amount of shows available to us has increased significantly. Unfortunately, the quality of anime in general doesn't really correlate with how much of it is being released, and as time went on.
Honestly, I would argue that it's an inverse proportionally, scaling graph. The more quantity of anime gets produced, the quality just goes down.
The amount of nothing burger shows per season also went up. Sometimes it's difficult to find a new quality anime in the sea of generic isekais and trashy rom-coms. Apart from the buoys of battle shonen that inevitably rise up to the top, there tends to be at least one or two good shows per season whose source material I've never read or know that much about, that truly wow me and leave an impression. Even when I find a show that meets these criteria, they usually stick around for just a season before disappearing like a flash in the pan, leaving me wondering when season 2 is coming out, or if...
Licorice Recoil, great anime. It's actually coming back. I'm not sure if it's a season 2, but they have some other projects lined up.
Season 2 would ever come out. Rarely do all the stars align during an anime season, and I'm introduced to a brand new anime that I've never really looked into, that consistently looks great, has a strong and unique narrative, isn't a battle shonen, and goes on for more than one season. But this past anime season, the Cosmos
Bro's got beef with battle shonen.
answered my prayers, and I was gifted with two shows that I haven't stopped obsessing about over the past 6 months. Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, and Apothecary Diaries. Despite these two shows not really being related to each other.
What the fuck?
Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, and Apothecary Diaries.
Why are they whoring out Mama's dirty souls in this cover picture? That's actually pretty funny.
Despite these two shows not really being related to each other, they both left an extremely strong impression on me for the same reason. For some time, I wasn't able to pinpoint why I enjoyed these shows so much. What about these adaptations were so good, and why did they leave?
Why are they good? It's good because it's good. I know that's a stupid thing to say. It's very obvious, but it's good because it's good. Now, what does good mean in this context? I think the overall direction, the overall adaptation of the source material into anime format, even if not a source material reader, I can tell that every episode is so quality. It doesn't feel like they're doing nothing. Even Frieren, where a lot of people complain, myself, I always, shit on people that say, oh my god, if you actually think Frieren and Frieren walking through a fucking forest for 40 fucking seconds without saying anything, with background music playing, with just the fucking a still of the blue sky happening, and you call that fucking peak animation, I would be like, you're glazing a bit too much. But it's vastly, vastly superior in setting that tone and atmosphere. It's something about Frieren, when I watch it, I'm at ease. It's so fun. And it's all about the journey. I don't care about the end goal. I don't care about, getting to that northern place in the Demon Palace. I care more of like, all right, where are we going next? And then we have a new episodic thing, and we handle some, issues, some sort of side quest, and you move on. The world building slowly gradually grows more and more as you get to introduce more characters here and there. And to wrap it off, the crazy, battle royale tournament-esque arc that we had with the magic licensing stuff, that arc was fucking phenomenal. Something about Frieren is it just scratches all these itches that I've been just begging from anime. And it's really hard to put it into words, but the overall production of Frieren is just so phenomenal. Soundtrack, the visuals, the overall color palette, the voice acting, again, and the actual direction of the show, I think it's phenomenal. Apothecary Diaries is so different from the usual anime that we watch. And as many, the whole Chinese palace setting stuff, it exists in other mediums. It's just that in anime form, it's very rare. So for me to watch this was a totally unique setting. And the storytelling too is so intricate. It threw me off of, I could not have, it was so hard for me to guess the anime as I was watching it because of the themes that is so unique to me, right? What is the themes of Apothecary Diaries in the beginning? Well, one of the things that shocked me was how everyone basically yearns for freedom and love, both in the rear palace and from the Veridian palace, right? The whorehouse. and everyone's kind of stuck there and they yearn for love. And that one episode where the girl accidentally tripped and the emperor, denounced her and she got kicked out. The fact that she intentionally did that to go with her like childhood friend for true love, that blew my mind. I was like, oh, okay. And at that point, then I start to get a little bit more into the show and try to understand like how the storytelling is being done. The identity mysteries is fucking killer. Like, my mind blew for Jinshi's plot twist, for Mao Mao's honestly identity too, right? Who our adoptive father is, who our real dad is, and what else? Suire's plot twist, like all these different things, constantly making you guess. So engaging.
Leaves such a strong impression on me and millions worldwide. To simply put it, this is the power of having extremely strong female leads.
So the talking point here is that Frieren and Apothecary Diaries is great because of strong female leads. I'd say Mao is a very great strong female lead. Is Frieren necessarily a great female lead? She's just vibing, right? She just kind of exists and she's chilling. I don't think Frieren was impactful to me in the way that Mama was, to be honest.
Frieren's the anime that's taken over the internet over the past 6 months, and for good reason. Even if you haven't watched Frieren, you've definitely seen this silly looking elf either vibing or annihilating her opponents, with a stone cold expression on her face, supplemented with some of the most impressive animation you've ever seen.
Yep.
Frieren immediately separated itself from the pack of uninteresting fantasy anime that bog each seasonal list by simply not being an isekai, and also
Ishira getting straight bullets, I love it.
So not centering around some overpowered main character whose quest it is to take down the almighty Demon King, a premise we've seen over 5 million times. While Frieren is quite strong and there is technically a Demon King within the story of Frieren doesn't really focus on that. What makes it so good is the fact that Frieren's already a legendary mage that's lived for over 1,000 years, yet the story focuses on the relationships she's trying to forge with humans, relationships she hadn't actively been focusing on since as enough they'd all seem like fleeting moments to her. Even though Frieren scoured the world to increase her knowledge on magic, was trained by the person who founded humanity's magic, and is known as the mage who slain the most demons ever, she still seemed hollow due to the solitude that comes with being an elf. Her unique journey is kicked off once she has to bid farewell to the hero she journeyed with when she took down the Demon King in a mere 10 years in her eyes, and she comes to realize that she truly loved him and the moments she spent with her party. The regret that ensues after she realizes that she didn't cherish her moments with her squad while she was experiencing them is indeed heartbreaking, but it effectively sets up a really interesting journey for Frieren, a journey to create bonds with other humans and not disregard them because they'll be gone quickly in her eyes.
That's right, the whole thing is her realizing how fleeting, these human lifespans are. To her, 100 years is nothing, but to other people, that's basically one lifespan. Now she's regretting, she's trying to cherish the moments. She gets to meet new companions, Stark, Frieren, and so on. And it's just her vibing with them and just being reminded of different things, right? Every time we go do something, it's like a lesson being learned as we tie it into our past. Like, was there some flashback with Himmel or Heiter, right? Or Eisen?
I've never seen an anime take this route with such a powerful, basically immortal character, and I was quickly enthralled to see Frieren explore this vast land and pick up companions on the way. From her now daughter that basically has to take care of her, Fern, to the greatest scaredy cat warrior we've ever seen in Stark. The best parts of Frieren aren't even the fights for me. The best parts of Frieren are the moments Frieren spends with her party, casually walking around, exploring new areas, and bonding over their shared experience.
My favorite, the fight scenes are obviously super hype. Everyone's very excited at the fight scenes, but I think that what really took off for me, in the first half, we're just kind of journeying around and just doing stuff from different villages to villages. That was honestly not the most engaging content for me. I can appreciate the atmosphere it's trying to set and trying to really, revel in like this journey that we're on. But what really made me engaged was when we got to get introduced to the bigger cast of character in the second core, right? Magic licensing arc. We got Denkin and the boys. We got Yubel's armpit. We got Mr. Work From Home. You got, the two girls that's basically Yuri bait, and so on and so on. And every one of them, as we get to know more of them after we pass the first round, right? You get to have these more interactions where Denkin's pulling up and buying his like so-called granddaughter treats, and the other guy in Denkin's party is being a little bit cold and aloof, but Denkin wanted to treat him well too, and we meet in the different restaurants and we have fun and talk and stuff like that. Even like what's the guy? There was like I forgot the guy's name. There was like another dude who's from like the north. He was like feeling up Stark and stuff for a bit. Weirbill, I think. But the whole vibes of that setting, the team, all the characters, just genuinely just hanging out, having fun, very immersive. Especially after the exam, and we're just chilling, and it's just like the aftermath, and everyone just kind of knows each other. It's something about that really made me appreciate the whole setting of Frieren.
Time progression is handled really well in Frieren, and it's refreshing to see main characters spend extended amounts of time at different locations, no matter how insignificant they may seem at first glance. These locations are brought to life with the different interactions Frieren has within them, with many of them reminding her of her journey that she went on with Hero Himmel so many years ago. Through these interactions, Frieren's able to find the true meaning behind her party members' words, words that she wasn't able to properly digest back then as her view on relationships was very different. Although it's heartbreaking to see Himmel, who we know is now a bag of bones, speak to Frieren with such affection and try to expand her view on different things while she just sits there with a stone face, I got
ignored. Man, it blows my mind.
The stone face.
It blows my mind the tweets I see about like, hey, this is the perfect male role model. You should all aspire to be Himmel. And I'm like, should we really? Listen, Himmel's a great guy. He's a very positive, non-toxic form of masculinity, I guess. But at the end of the day, bro, holy shit, he pretty much wasted his life. If you think about, if you define like a goal as in like him trying to get the love of his life to have some reciprocation, but he didn't get any of that and he just died. I just feel like something about that is not that romantic. But so many girls on Twitter, like they romanticize about this shit, saying like, oh my god, Himmel is the best male character ever. This motherfucker got friend zoned for decades and decades and decades. He just died. And I'm like, really? Like, Himmel's great, but goddamn, I don't think I'd ever really want to be him.
I got rewarded by seeing Frieren teach those lessons she learned to Fern and Stark.
People should be like Denkin, bro. Denkin's the real goddamn fucking role model, bro. Everyone, Denkin is the alpha male.
Stark. It's really cool seeing Frieren come to realizations about things that humans find pretty normal. Things like holding someone's hand when they're sick to comfort them, or telling someone you're proud of them may be very normal for us. But for an elf like Frieren, she hadn't really considered why we do these things. It really hammers home how different elves are from humans, and how their views brought by their long lifespans clash with that of humans. One of my favorite examples of this is the acceleration of magic proficiency in humans compared to elves. Though having a long lifespan may seem like a huge advantage for elves, we see how humans having a relatively short time to live drives them to innovate and grow far faster than.
That's right? The fact that you have so much time to live makes you not really desperate to really go achieve anything. But the more pressure there is because you have a shorter lifespan, mankind will go on to innovate and really just like push forward.
Elves. And Frieren herself sees the results of these innovations for humanity's magic as centuries pass by. Frieren, despite being such a ridiculously proficient mage, would only be rivaled by humans for this very fact. Even the way Frieren approaches magic is entirely different from the great mage elf, Ciri. Due to her experience with Flam, her party, and Fern, Frieren's view on magic isn't as individualistic, and she's more of a floor raiser for others than she is a solo magic mauling machine. This is best seen in her favorite spell, which isn't some insane beam of destruction.
It's the flower spell, right?
I know she's capable of creating, but a spell to create a beautiful field of flowers. Even amongst her own race, she stands out because of this attitude. And it's
and the flowers is supposed to be something that Himmel really loved.
what makes so much of this journey so satisfying. Frieren's relationship with her companions is such a pure and unique dynamic as both sides learn from each other. Frieren teaches Fern and Stark about magic and the world they live in since she has so much experience in it, and Fern and Stark teach Frieren about cherishing small gestures that humans hold in high regard so that Frieren can appreciate both her past journey and her current one. Frieren's constantly trying to learn to get better with sensing and dealing with emotion, and although she may sometimes seem cold with her words, it's very easy to see that she simply doesn't understand why a human would get upset over something. Her party members were well aware of this back then and constantly tried to teach her, and even though their lessons didn't exactly bear fruit back then, they're finally having an effect. Like at the end of the season, when Frieren goes out of her way to try to fix Fern's shattered staff. She may not have understood why Fern was
it's the whole sentimental value thing that she's understanding.
Attached to the staff, basically a replaceable piece of wood at the beginning of her journey, but she's slowly picking up on why humans are sentimental when it comes to such objects. The staff isn't simply an object, but a reminder of Heizer for Fern, a reminder that she dearly needs since Heizer is now gone. This combination has led so many people to connect with Frieren and see it as being way more than a flashy magic fight-filled anime, and more.
I think I really do wonder if we took a study, like a survey, like a big enough statistically enough sample size of people that enjoy Frieren, do you think that the average person enjoyed these themes more? Like the whole theme of existential crisis, that time is limited, that you need to go cherish these different bonds, and for Frieren to understand what she did wrong in the past and now to try harder as, you know, with these new companions. It's a beautiful theme. Or do you think that they give a fuck about Stark, you know, one shot on the dragon? Or like Frieren, you know, fucking fighting the dolls. I I think that most people just care about the action, man. I think that the journey is like an afterthought. I think a lot of people honestly just care about the action.
More of a truly beautiful journey thanks to the phenomenal main character.
You'd be surprised how many people would skip the journey part, watching it 2x speed, or skipping it entirely and just going to the hype episodes. Like, the average consumer they're monsters. You are not the average viewer. You're literally in a fucking Twitch stream of another dude that watches the animes that you've watched, and Frieren's not even airing, and you're watching a video essay reaction. You are the 0.00001% of anime enjoyers. You could never see from the perspective of the average retard that genuinely don't care about any of the intro elements. They just look at the action sequence on TikTok, they see something go viral, and they go click on that episode, and they watch, and they say Frieren is peak. I genuinely believe that this is how a lot of people behave.
Apothecary Diaries, the lesser known of the two, sprung onto the scene the same time Frieren did, although it didn't have nearly the amount of initial hype Frieren had since it wasn't as flashy of a project compared to it. I was immediately drawn towards Apothecary Diaries because of the setting. As a huge Kingdom fan, I love seeing anime that focus on Imperial China, and even in that niche, Apothecary Diaries stood out since it didn't focus on the great battles that were fought during that time period, and more on the complex politics that go on within the Forbidden City of China. My first impression of Apothecary Diaries was that it was just a silly little series about a genius apothecary named Mao Mao, who's surrounded by idiots who know nothing about medicine, and she has to do her own heroics in order to save the bloodline of the emperor so that he may have.
It is crazy the amount of she's just hard carrying the fucking palace, man. Mama is not just a simple apothecary. She's also a doctor, she's also a detective, she's also a therapist. She goes on solving all these fucking murder mysteries. Imagine the amount of unsolved cases that's been happening throughout the years before people came in, before Mama came into the palace. It blows my mind how incompetent the people in the palace really are. Like, Mama is straight up just cleaning house, just basically solving everything possible, connecting the dots, and then just even like saving Jinshi at the end, right? And the whole storytelling of Apothecary Diaries, right? There's no action. There is no battle scenes. Not really, right? Yet it's so engaging. Why? Because just because they're having meeting scenes, just because they're yapping, it doesn't mean it's boring. A lot of people watch, let's say, Tensor Season 3, and they see a table, and you know that the meetings are about to happen, and you get triggered because you know that the meeting that's about to happen is going to be so fucking dry. I think that the way that Apothecary Diaries does the dialogue and the meetings, or let's say even Kaguya-sama, there's a lot of different other shows, or even let's say Bakemonogatari 2, right? The Shaft animes. I haven't seen them, but I can clearly tell through the random clips that the visual dynamic usage of just animation can make the yapping scenes so much better. So Apothecary Diaries, it's such a good anime that even though there's no action, you would think that it wouldn't do very well. And relative to Frieren, obviously it's not doing as well, but it's still phenomenal.
Have an error. Don't get it twisted, I liked Mao Mao immediately, but that was mainly because of her personality when it comes to being a hopeless drug addict or medicine enthusiast, and how she seemingly didn't give a damn about anything else but that. I would have enjoyed Apothecary Diaries plenty if it was just Mao Mao using her apothecary knowledge to solve medical issues within the Rear Palace, but as time went on, the scope of Apothecary Diaries expanded, and Mao Mao's attitude shifted as she found herself having to navigate the murky waters within the Rear Palace. Before I knew it, Mao Mao the apothecary had turned into Mao Mao the detective, except she didn't have any of the authority an actual detective would have. All she had were her wits and Jinshi, a powerful figure within the Rear Palace that could get Mao Mao into situations she wanted to be in, so that both of them could mutually benefit. It was cool seeing Mao Mao solve cases that seemingly had nothing to do with medicine, with skills she picked up as an apothecary, and her attitude of discarding the nonsense superstition that often floated around back then, with cold, hard facts that were discovered via careful investigation, was refreshing, especially after seeing so many characters chalk up easily explainable events to magic or something. What made Apothecary Diaries really—
That's right, in this palace, right, everyone just thinks that supernatural ghost, oh my god, but everything is grounded by science. I love how, like, Mama's personality, I think, is definitely like the biggest charm to me. She is such a great female lead. She's not a damsel in distress. She's not this soft little girl that needs to be coddled. She is built like a fucking truck. She's a Sigma Giga Chad. As cringe as it sounds, I think Mama was literally a Sigma female. She gives no fucks about being part of the in-group. She's completely confident in her own abilities. And she's willing to just slap a bitch when it comes down to business, if it needs to be. But when she also gets insulted, she doesn't take it personally. She doesn't care, right? Until a life is on the line. Everything about Mama is just so good. But then I think about it a little more, and I realize, why is Mama like this? What kind of past would create a child like this? Then you know the thing that happened with mom, right? And then you realize, oh, this is probably all the results of coping mechanisms and a girl that's trying to survive.
Stand out to me is how it combined these cases with the politics of the palaces and focused on Mama standing within it. She's not someone from an esteemed bloodline and is a rather plain-looking person.
She's not someone from an esteemed bloodline. Well, if we're talking about nobility and stuff like that, yeah. But it made it sound like Mama is not a person of importance at all, but we know that's false, right? She, Lakan's daughter. Lakan also is not like the highest, like, if you're thinking, like, yeah, he has a very high title, right? The best strategist in the palace, for sure. Military rankings, he climbed the ladder. But he's not like the emperor's daughter or something. Like, she's not, there's no like nobility blood.
And it's all completely intentional. Mao Mao's extremely aware of how she can be easily discarded if she makes a mistake, such as wrongfully accusing an official, and her lack of worth in the grand scheme of things is highlighted through various elements in Apothecary.
She's very aware of her position and status, yeah.
Diaries. First of all, Mao Mao's a straight up poison tester for one of the concubines within the rear palace. This role is basically a death sentence to those who aren't proficient with detecting poison, like Mao Mao is. And during this time period,
she loves
it's safe to say no one was really at that level. Off rip, it's apparent that Mao Mao's seen as someone who can be easily discarded, as her job presents the possibility of her losing her life because someone sprinkled a little something into the rice. You'd think someone in this position would keep their head low and carry on, and on the surface, that's exactly what Mao Mao does. Even though she has plenty of knowledge about different mysteries, people, and medicine, she never really...
Yeah, I love how in the beginning, Mao Mao is all about trying to lay low, trying to just hide her power levels and do nothing. But somehow, some way, we are like one of the most important peoples in the palace, right? Mao Mao's chill with pretty much all the concubines. Maybe not all of them, right? The Luolan is a little weird, but Li Hua and Gyokyo, one of the two top concubines, immediately they just show her so much favor because Mao Mao went and helped them out so much, right? Jinshi, one of the most important peoples in the rear palace, and just the outer palace too, right? Has so much interest in Mao Mao. The emperor too sees value in Mao Mao. Lakan, obviously, it's Mao Mao's father. Like, Mao Mao, the more the show went on, it's just like, she pretty much is like almost like the most important person in the palace, in my opinion. The value that she brings, the way that she's able to handle so many mysteries and solve it, it's crazy. It's unlike her skill sets, it's cracked.
Explicitly tells anyone all of this information until it's absolutely required for them to know. Even Jinshi, someone who's repeatedly been shown to be extremely trustworthy and acts in Mao Mao's best interests in the shadows and actually treats her like a person, well, mostly like a person, doesn't know half the information that's lodged.
Yeah, in the beginning, he was pretty down bad for her, right? And trying to really seduce her. But that never goes well. But the more that Jinshi got serious, Mao Mao started to like that version of Jinshi, right? Being more genuine.
Out of Mao Mao's brain. However, when no one's looking, Mao Mao's always investigating, trying to get to the root cause behind certain events without outright going up to people and accusing them. She's well aware that she's constantly risking her life by helping with these investigations, and directly accusing officials, even those she knows are horrible people, would end in her own death. She shrewdly gets information she desires without directly asking for it. For example,
I love how she always like pretty much nails everything perfectly and then says, but I shouldn't talk, in conjecture. Because Lumen, I think, really instilled that knowledge into her. Maybe Lumen, he was like punished for assuming things a little bit too much.
One episode, she tries to figure out where seaweed was sourced so that she could figure out why a victim fell into a coma. She doesn't tell people to go investigate the South, even though that's what her hunch tells her. Instead, she says, it would be great if you could figure out where this is from. And this kind of indirect questioning is Mao Mao's expertise, and through it, she's able to get the information she desires without necessarily being the one issuing the orders.
She's basically like Anna Koji, man. Not really, but she set this framework where indirectly she like pushes the pieces around the board, right? And she doesn't necessarily directly like says stuff that makes it feel like she's onto something, but just like suggests and hints and nudges, and people eventually find shit out, and then we just work off of that.
It's brilliant. Even then, when Mao Mao needs to spring into action, she's willing to sacrifice herself just so that she doesn't piss off the wrong people, or if she wants someone to act in a certain way at her own expense. I've seen her get slapped and mentally tell herself this was supposed to happen, and offer to be executed in place of a guard so she can stop a ceremony. She's constantly gambling her own life in various situations, and takes advantage of being able to read people really well, so that even if she is risking her own life, the odds that she'll actually go kaput are pretty low since she has people.
But here's the also very interesting thing too, and I think this will be answered as we get to know more of like Mao Mao's past. She values life so much to the point that she would sacrifice her own life to save a random stranger, right? There is that first couple episode 4, I think, when Mao Mao slapped one of Li Hua's girls. It's not because Li Hua's, servants were being rude to Mao Mao and kicking her out. No, they've been doing that all the time, but Mao Mao didn't take it personally. But the moment that she realized that these dumbasses were still using the makeup poison, right? The fact that Li Hua's life was on the line, then she got fucking pissed off. And at that point, it's just like, oh, whenever life is on the line, she doesn't take it. She takes it very seriously. There's also, the Jinshi stuff, right? Where she didn't know it was Jinshi in there. She knew that someone's gonna die, that someone's gonna get assassinated potentially, but she didn't know it was Jinshi. Yet she still got clobbered in the head, went up, just like sacrificed her leg, and to save a random person. It really shows like, why would you care this much? Why would you care this much about saving lives? And maybe it doesn't need to be that deep, right? Maybe it's just, she just has a good heart and she wants to do it. But I just feel like there might be something more that meets the eye that hasn't been really explained just yet because we haven't got enough backstory, more characterization of her.
People dancing along to her tune. She even managed to get a master strategist to lose a board game he excelled at simply by adding a rule to the game that said that the loser of each match would have to take a shot of potentially poisoned alcohol. Since the strategist didn't want Mao Mao dead and Mao Mao knew he was a lightweight, he ended up losing the bout due to not being sober after intentionally losing a match to save Mao Mao's life. At least that's what he thought. In reality, the alcohol wasn't really poisoned, and Mao Mao was expertly able to get the strategist to do her bidding without her even winning the initial challenge. This isn't even accounting for Mao Mao's traumatic past, which she never really tells anyone. Raised in a brothel,
and again, this traumatic past I think is why Mao Mao is Mao Mao. You're glazing her character and saying she's so cool and Sigma. Well, do you know what kind of experiences it takes to get to that level?
Used by her own mother, Mao Mao's been through it all, yet she doesn't get frustrated about it and keeps moving forward. She still suffers, but quietly. She doesn't bother with love because she believes she left it behind in the womb of the woman who birthed her, and she constantly talks about how it's a miracle she's even made it this far due to her lowly birth. She's honestly been such a breath of fresh air when it comes to main characters in general, and her attitude is so different from what we usually see with female characters in anime.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Frieren, I think, is... Like, I don't think Frieren is good because Frieren is a great female lead. Frieren is good because the whole show is just fucking good. A lot of, complex topics and concepts and themes of, cherishing your life and, the limited time that you have. And there's a lot of other great characters in that show too. I don't think it's really Frieren. But in Apothecary Diaries, I think it is Mao Mao. Like, she is a great female lead. She is so different from any other female characters that we've seen from anime. And, well, I guess it's because we're consuming so much, isekai slop and rom-com. And it's just rare to have a female lead like this that just stands on business where it's just so refreshing.
Anime, and I absolutely adore it. It's been so much fun watching both Frieren and Mao Mao embark on their journeys over the past 20 plus episodes, just like how I hope you had a good...
Also, I think that the thing that Apothecary Diaries really excels at again is the mysteries. The random side quests that gets interlinked into some grand scheme in the future. The identities, right? Constantly guessing, who are these people really, right? Like our adoptive father ending up becoming like basically Lakan's uncle, right? And he used to be in the Rear Palace too. And like he used to work. That was like, what the hell? And Lakan also being our father, that was obviously, that was quite the shock too. Our mother, right, being revealed as she used to work as a concubine. Sorry, a courtesan. What else? I guess the baby swapping thing with Jinshi, right? What else? Suire. Suire's identity, that shit blew my fucking mind, right? And now I'm just so on guard whenever I see a character and just like, look at their hair color, look at their eye color, See if it matches something else. I love the whole guessing game of identities in Apothecary Diaries.
Good time watching this video. If you like this kind of content, feel free to like and subscribe.
Yeah, there's a video. Yeah, I know it's a pretty old video, and neither of the show. I mean, Apothecary Diaries is back. Frieren season 2 is also coming back pretty soon, though. Anyways, here's a link to their channel. Give it a like, subscribe if you want. I'll see you next time.